Okay, let's talk about the pension market now, where the Nigeria's Sovereign Investment Authority, that's the agency responsible for Nigeria's sovereign wealth fund, says it wants more pension funds assets to be put in the country's infrastructure funding basket for the government. Nigeria's infrastructure spending gap is about 2.2 trillion naira. So why would 3.4 trillion naira be sitting down somewhere and the government needs just 2.2 trillion of that? Now let's talk to Ayodeji Ebo, who is the head of investment research at Afrinvest. Talk to us from downtown Lagos. Ayo, thank you very much for coming through. We appreciate your time.
Good morning.
Okay, Ayodeji, this looks like an interesting story for you, isn't it? You have pension assets of about 3.4 trillion. The government needs about 2.2 trillion. Why don't we just give the money to the government?
Interestingly, the pension fund, which has accumulated over 3 trillion in the last years, is one of the commendable policies that we've seen so far. However, it's the policymakers, the regulator, which is PenFom, has been doing a very good job in terms of the management of the fund. When you look at in terms of classification of where funds can be invested in, currently we have about 80% in government securities, far less than 10%, around 10% in equities. So some of these, this may be of interest to the guys in the infrastructural side, such that they can, if the government or the regulators can allocate some of these funds to that particular, to the infrastructural space, it will also help. But I think the first step that needs to be taken is that there needs to be a structure in place. Based on the current Reform Act, there's an opportunity for up to 5% of the funds to be invested in infrastructural funds. However, when you look at some of like for the bank, you say bankable projects, most of these projects for infrastructure needs to be properly structured in such a way that over time you are able to, when you look at in terms of the payback period or the returns that you generate over time, will be commensurate to what is obtainable in other classes of assets. So I'm not surprised that the NSIA is also eyeing these available funds.
We're talking about 2.4 trillion naira assets over 10, 12 years of the pension funds. Now you have 80% of this just sitting down in treasury bills and bonds. You have just about 10% or less in equities. That doesn't help the country, does it?
Yeah, well, we have to first of all look at, for those that have contributed this fund, they will be after, especially the pension, the employees will be after preservation of their capital, such that when they retire, they are able to get back their contribution. So we need to try to balance it. It may look so bogus, so good that 80% is domiciled in FGM bonds. And it's so glaring in terms of the yields. 15% is very attractive. What I feel that needs to be done is, in terms of infrastructure development, there needs to be a structure in place such that some of the projects that you can recoup your funds over a long time, and there's a structure in place, and the pension funds can be allowed to be channeled into such a fund. So in terms of equities, I think we also need to look at that. Apart from that, in terms of equities, it has dropped significantly from last year, about 14% of the total funds to about 10%, which is obviously as a result of the pressure we've seen in terms of in the equities market. I feel there needs to be a balance. So as we try to see how you want to channel more funds to that particular space, infrastructure development, we also need to see how we are able to preserve the funds or the contribution of the employees within the pension fund.
Ayo, what type of projects, government projects or infrastructure projects are we talking about here? Are we talking about roads, bridges, second Niger bridge or so. You need another bridge in Lokoja, for example, or we need a new ultra-modern airport, for example, for Lagos or Abuja, what have you. What type of projects do you think can be bankable for these pension funds to invest in?
Yes, I feel in terms of, there are a lot of projects like you have highlighted, like the rail system, the pension administrators may look at that space such that based on the fees that will be charged over a long time, would be able to, they will be able to recoup their investment in that particular space. But the policy needs to, we know based on the challenges we have in Nigeria in terms of inconsistency in policy, the PFA will not be willing to invest today such that in a particular space or infrastructure or railway, like I mentioned, and the next government may come and change the policy around that particular industry. So as a result, capital may be lost. So I feel we will get to that stage such that when we see projects that are bankable in terms of policies are well written, such that if government changes, the policy still remains binding on any new government that comes in. And I feel it will provide a level, a comfort level for the PFAs to invest.
Okay, I think we got a summary of what you're saying, Ayodeji. This is very interesting, not because these projects, infrastructure projects, aren't backable, but the comfortability of the PFAs to invest in them because they're not sure of what happens tomorrow. If you invest in one state government, for example, that wants to build an airport or a sporting facility, you're not sure the next government administration will come in and say no.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So
is that confidence? Is that confidence from the fiscal side that's the issue here for the PFAs, for the pensions?
Yeah, no. The fiscal side needs to create that confidence to attract the PFAs. So the fund is available, but in terms of where to channel the fund, they need to see a well-written agreement that even if there's any change in government, they will not lose any capital of their contributors. All
right. Thank you very much, Ayodeji Ebo. We appreciate your insight starting the week for us here this morning.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Ayodeji Ebo, Head of Investment Research at Afrinvest. Okay, that's about all we got time for today. Don't forget, we have a very busy week ahead. Tomorrow, the Chartered Institute of Bankers will be starting its two-day annual conference in Abuja. We have an eye into that conference. We'll get someone in there to talk to us on tomorrow's show in about 24 hours, 10 a.m. Nigerian time. Keep an eye on that. We'll get an insight into this conference and some of the things that's been in the pipeline for a number of years. We'll talk to this also on the program tomorrow. I'll be back in the next 24 hours with another edition of Business Morning here on Channels Television. News comes first here as usual, so stick around at the top of the hour for News Track. Bye for now.